Hey, everybody, and welcome back. I am Dr. Butler, and this is the MD Investor Podcast. And today I want to talk about passion. So, a lot of people talk about passion all the time. And the thing is your passion actually driving you to where you want to be in life? Because if it isn't, and you're not letting your passion drive you, it's going to be a huge difference in life. So, I really want to talk about that because when it comes down to investing, that is something that's going to be a key factor for most people. So, let's get into it today. Now, what I want to talk about is passion in terms of having longevity. There's a lot of things that aren't going to last a long time. Sometimes people are chasing a lot of things in life, and those things that we're chasing aren't going to be what keeps us in the game for forever. So, for example, medicine. I love medicine, and in this case, there was a lot of things about medicine that I really wanted to be involved in. But the reason that I loved medicine was different from why I actually started medicine. So, when I talked about being a kid and wanting to do medicine, the reason I wanted to do medicine is because my grandmother was sick, people in my family were getting sick, and people were dying in my family. And I thought that the reason they were dying was because they needed doctors. And I thought if I was a doctor, I can save my mom, I can save my grandmother, I can. Of course, that wasn't really the case because medicine has a lot more politics to it. It has a lot more hoops to jump through, right? Like if my mom was to come to the hospital right now today and I went to go see her, there would be some restrictions, right? They'll be like, no, there's a violation, there's like a conflict of interest here. They wouldn't let me treat my mom as my own patient because there's too many conflicting kind of things they got to talk about and go through. So in this case, somebody else would have to see her, but I could like help. But if I was working at the same hospital, I can't go through her charts and I can't actually like look at all her information and stuff like that because that's a HIPAA violation now. Which means that the whole reason I wanted to do medicine in the first place is something that I'm restricted from actually doing in real life in practice. Right. So that means that she's not my actual patient. I can't go actually take care of my family directly. That's not how it works. That's how I thought it worked when I was a kid. So that's what I was passionate about when I was a kid. Because when I was passionate, I wasn't necessarily passionate about medicine itself. I was passionate about the ability to help my family. And the huge difference was my family didn't have access to all of these things because we didn't have insurance. The issue was insurance and money. If we weren't growing up super poor, if we had money, we would have been able to have our own insurance and we would have had health care and we would have been able to get what we needed. Because even sometimes when you're on government assistance or like you're on Section 8 or you're on Medi-Cal, Medicare, whatever, there's still restrictions to some stuff. So in this case, what I really didn't know about the world when I was a child versus what I know now as an adult changed my passion. So if I want to actually be able to pursue and be able to continue to grow with my passion and be able to help my family the way I wanted to, the way I want to still, even to this day, my passion had to change. And in this case, the reason I bring up passion is because a lot of us don't realize that we let our passions fade and we don't realize that when they change, it's time to change with them, or it's time to grow into it, or it's time to become more fierce with that passion. And when you do that, your passion can drive you. So let your passion drive you to the next level. Let it help you build up to the next level so that way you can actually keep pursuing it and keep changing it. Because that's the thing about dreams, also. So dreams and passions are kind of like hand in hand in this way. Because once you're chasing something, the issue with chasing something is once you catch it, right? Like you ever see those dog races? Like the dogs full out sprint. Like let's say like the Greyhound races, right? So I don't know if you guys ever watched the Greyhound races where it's like they shoot a rabbit across the track and all the Greyhounds like take off chasing the Greyhound, the little rabbit on the track. That's what motivates them to drive them to race. It's because they want to catch the rabbit. Like that's how they're trained. So in this case, even in your life, you're trained to try to catch that rabbit. But what happens when you catch it? Have you ever seen the dogs catch it? When they catch it, they completely stop. And when you completely stop, you lose the race at that point. Why? Because none of the dogs are actually continuing the race. And life is just one big race that we're all racing for, or we're all racing through it. And day in and day out, we're either chasing our goals, we're chasing our dreams, or we're just trying to survive. And if we're doing, they'll start to kind of slowly fade. And if those things start to fade away, if they start to stop mattering, if they start to what's the best way to put it? So if those things start to have a back seat in your life, then your passion has a back seat. And if your passion has a back seat, you're not motivated, you're not eager, you're not pushing yourself to the next level, and you just end up becoming complacent. And I did that a lot when I started in medicine, because initially I was so motivated. Like I was like, I can't wait to do medicine. I can't wait to do medicine. This is something that I wanted since I was a kid. It is the only thing that has driven me since I was a child, which means from 7 years old until I actually finished medical school at like, I don't know, 26 or 27. I can't remember. A 20-year journey, a 20-year process, something along that line, right? Like 4 years of high school, 4 years of college, 3 years of medical school, no, 4 years of medical school, and then another 3 years of residency. That's all that's driven me. And that was from the perspective of a child. That was the passion of a child, not the passion of an adult. And as an adult, I was like, okay, what I need, the passion that's driving me has to change, because what's happening in return is now I have a family. I have a family that requires a lot of me. They want a lot of things from me. And I want to be able to give them all of those things, like give them my time, give them my energy, be able to spend time with them. And that's not what was happening. What was happening was I was spending all my time at work. I was spending all my time at the hospital. I was spending all my time helping patients, helping their families, helping them through the hard times and stuff like that. But what about when there was hard times in my own household? What about when there was hard times like my kids were sick or they had to be home from school because they're coughing nonstop all the time? And I wasn't home to help them. I wasn't nursing my own kids. No, my wife was doing that while I was working, and I kept working. And it was like, okay, well, my justification was if I keep working, then I'll be able to make sure I have health care for them, because they'll need health care if they're getting sick. And if they're getting sick, they'll need health care, and back and forth. And a cycle continues. But I wasn't passionate about working in order to have health care so that my kids can have health care. That was not what my passion was. My passion was taking care of my family so that they can have the best life possible and a life better than me, right? So sometimes you had stuff like that from your parents, like, oh, I want my kids to have a better life than me. And if you have kids, you were like, I want your kids to have a better life than you. Same thing, right? We keep wanting to grow and keep wanting to build and keep wanting to go to the next level. But something has to pursue, no, something has to push you and drive you forward to continue to do that. And sometimes that passion is just not really passion anymore. Sometimes it's just survival. And if you're like, I have this house and I have to pay these bills. I have this car and I have to pay these bills. I got this mortgage. I got this electric bill, this light bill. My kids need groceries. My kids need health insurance. Is that your passion anymore? If it's not your passion, it just means that this is the basics of you surviving and just moving forward. You can't excel and go to the next level if you're just letting life happen to you at that point in time. You're no longer passionate about reaching a new level or reaching a new height. And for me, when I hit this wall, it was a very, very abrupt wall hit for me. Like I finally became an attending physician, and this is what I wanted my entire life. And then once I actually obtained the goal that I've been pushing my entire life to get, this 20-year journey, this 20+ year journey, once I had completed that journey and I finally caught the rabbit that I've been chasing all this time, I realized that you're like, hey, I don't even like rabbit, right? Like imagine this dog chasing this rabbit nonstop, and then you finally catch it, and you're like, I'm allergic, or I don't even like rabbit like that, right? I'd rather have chicken, or I'd rather have vegetables, right? I don't even enjoy this anymore. But at that point in time, I was working just for the sake of working, and I was doing things just for the sake of doing things, and my passion had completely dissipated. I wasn't running the race anymore. I was just kind of like in zombie mode, like kind of like a husk. My passion completely dissipated and I stopped running the race. And when that happened, I stopped caring. I stopped trying. I was just there. And some people are extremely passionate and their passion continues to grow because of some people's passion never dissipates. It never changes. But for me, it was a little bit different because what initially started off as my driving force stopped being my driving force. So now what I'm trying to find out is what's your driving force? What is it for you that keeps pushing you to the next level? Maybe you want to keep pushing your education. Maybe you want to keep rising to a higher and higher level. Maybe you want to be the COO or the CEO or the CMO, or maybe you just want to be like the head. I don't know. Everyone has a reason for what they're doing. And sometimes that reason has to be able to be translated into what's driving you forward. Now, for me and for my family, what initially drove me forward was being able to provide for them in a capacity as a doctor. But you don't know as a kid that you can't take care of your own family. Like, if somebody would have taught me that as a child, I probably would have been like, oh, well, then I don't need to be a doctor. I just need to be rich. Because if I'm rich, I can pay for the best healthcare for my family without needing to be a doctor for them. Now, of course, the benefit of being a doctor is that I've learned all the language. I know what it takes. I understand what they're talking about, even in their own language, right? So if a doctor talks to me, it's in other doctor language. So it's not going to be like there's something missing. I can fill in all of the gaps for what my family needs to understand. And this is something that happened when my grandmother had cancer too. So when my grandmother had cancer and she passed away, so I have two grandmothers. So everybody has two, maybe more grandmothers. But in this case, my grandmother, when I was a child, had asthma, and she ended up dying from an asthma attack. But later on in life, this actually happened while I was at medical school. I had another grandmother, and she passed away from breast cancer. And I was able to understand a lot of the things that were going on at the time and try to help break everything down. But the reality of it is, I still wasn't able to really do much, right? I couldn't actually do what I was hoping to do. I was like, hey, I know stuff. Oh, okay, they're talking about, trastuzumab, and they're talking about HER2 receptors, and it's positive for this estrogen, and we're going to try this type of chemotherapy, and we're going to do these. So I was able to break that down, and that part made it easier to understand when I was talking to my grandparents. But in reality, I wasn't able to do what I was hoping for. And my grandmother still passed away, so there was nothing that I can actually physically do to try to solve that. Like, everything I was passionate about, I was like, I'll be able to save my family. But again, that was the mindset of a kid. Because in reality, we can't save every single person. We can try our best. We can do everything that's humanly possible for us to do our best. But in reality, we can't save everyone. Life is a process, right? People are born, people die, they get old, people get sick, accidents happen. All of these things happen in life, and we can't control all of these things. And it is unfortunate, but for myself, I thought that I could help control these things if I just knew the right steps. But that's not necessarily reality. That's not really what it was. So again, I had to learn that as I was going up, and as I was getting older, even within medicine, even as a resident, I was like, man, I really thought that I'd be able to fix these things, and it wasn't the case. And also, when things like that happen in life, when something throws you for a loop, or you lose a family member, or you lose your passion for what you started off with, then you have to find a way to rekindle that. And for me, investing is what helped me to actually save me and get me back on the right track. And I don't mean investing like just money, because money wouldn't have saved me. That's not how that works. When I say investing save me, I mean literally trying to pour back into myself to find my passion and to find what pushes me forward and keeps me going. Because I completely lost it. So I completely lost everything that made me me. I went through the process of just grinding for 20 years straight. And even though I seem like I'm very young or whatever, that's not the case. The case is that it doesn't matter if you started off when you were 5 or you started off when you were 55. The thing is that it takes energy and it takes a lot of motivation to push you and drive you to whatever it is that's driving you. So for myself, medicine was that's what drove me. That's what pushed me every single step of the way for 20 plus years, because I knew that I wanted to do medicine since I was a kid, since I had this scar on my face. I knew that that's what I wanted to do. However, when I actually achieved the goal that I was looking for, when I actually got to the level that I was looking to get to, that's when I started feeling tired. That's when I started feeling burnt out. That's when I started feeling like I couldn't do it anymore. And that's when I had to learn how to invest again. And again, like I said, it's not just money. It's literally anything and everything. At that point in time, I was well over 500 pounds. Like, I was huge. Like, you can ask my fellow residents and stuff like that, or you can ask my wife. I was massive. I was a huge person, and I had no energy to take care of myself, to do anything. And I was just kind of there, but I wasn't really surviving. I wasn't really growing. I wasn't really thriving. I was just kind of like a husk of a person. And it was frustrating because I wanted to be able to match my kids' energy and go out and play and do everything that they needed and give them the time that they wanted, but I didn't have it in me. I didn't have it to offer. I didn't have it to build off of. I didn't have anything. It was just like I was only learning and seeing my kids through my phone. Like everything that I did was through FaceTime or something like that because I was always at work. So when my kid had their first steps or my kids had their first time talking or saying dada for the first time, everything is on video. It's all on my phone. None of it was real time because I was never there. I was always working. That's when I was doing like 24, 28 shifts a month nonstop because I really thought that if I got enough money, if I worked hard enough, that I would actually start being able to be free. And that's not what it was, because work's not going to buy me freedom. Only investing can do that. But before I can start investing in anything else, I had to know what I needed to invest in. So before I knew, I'm like, do I need to invest in the stock market? Do I need to invest in real estate? Do I need to invest in e-commerce? What is it that I'm supposed to do? Because no one has ever taught me this. How is it that you tell me for 20 years I need to educate myself and education is freedom and education is key, but then I wasn't educated on what to actually do to take care of myself as a person in my own life. And that's super frustrating also. But in this case, the first place I had to start was investing in myself. And I had to invest in finding what my passion was. What am I truly passionate about? What's going to wake me up every single day and push me forward to keep building on top of it? And it turns out my family really, really mattered to me. But even as much as they mattered to me, even as much as I cared about my family, I don't think that was the true driving force behind my passion. Because if that was the case, I wouldn't have been depressed in the first place. I wouldn't have been sad in the first place. But I didn't find out what it took for me to believe in me until I started investing in myself. That's when I started to be like, hey, I have to work on my diet. I have to actually invest time into my body and go from this huge 500-pound person who can barely walk a few steps to somebody who can run a few miles. Like it took time and I had to invest in myself and I had to redefine what made me passionate and then helping other people. That's something that I've always been passionate about, but I've never expressed it to its full extent. See, I thought I can help other people. I thought I can help my family through medicine. But there's some limitations to that. That means that I physically have to be at the hospital, one. Then you have to be assigned to me as my patient, right? Because in this case, a lot of hospitals I go to, I don't just see every patient. There's some round robins. There's like, hey, this is your admission. Hey, this one's not. So then you get assigned different patients and stuff like that. So maybe you really needed something to motivate you. Maybe you really needed a positive vibe to come in your way while you're going through this hard time and while you're in the hospital. And that's what I really wanted to help my patients with was understanding that it's like even your health is a mindset. But in this case, that means I had to physically see you. And if I didn't physically see you, then I physically couldn't help you. And that's when I realized it's like if I really wanted to reach more people and help more people, I had to actually change the way that I did things. And I had to actually build and make a larger platform or something where I can actually reach out to more people. And it takes time. And it takes time. Even this podcast, it takes time, right? It's not like this is the most popular podcast in the world. I promise you it's not. But in this case, I'm learning and I'm building and it's taking time. And the reason I come and sit here and do this is it's not because thousands and millions of people come and watch it. No, it's because I'm passionate about trying to help someone else figure out how to get from where they lost their passion to investing in themselves and to investing in their future and being able to get that financial freedom. Because when you have freedom and you're able to grow, then you can make decisions in your life that are made for you, not actually made on your behalf, but made because you got to choose. And if you're passionate about something and you build into that stuff and you drive yourself forward, then you actually have choices in life. Before I felt like I didn't have choices. I had to work because I had to pay for this house. I had to go to work because I had to pay for this car. I had to show up to work even if I hated it, even if they were treating me like crap, even if the place was racist, even the like whatever it may be, I had to show up regardless of whether or not I wanted to be there because I was obligated to. And there's a huge difference between feeling obligated to do something and feeling able to do something or being allowed to do something. That's a huge difference in its own. If I'm obligated to go to work and I have to pay these bills, it feels forced, and no one likes feeling forced, right? There's a reason things are done with permission because no one wants to be forced. Even if you had like cancer and you were sick and somebody's like, you're taking this chemo medication. No, we ask you, these are your options. What do you want? How can we help you? What is it that you want to do? And then are you willing to fight and ready to survive? And then you get those patients who are like, no, no, thank you. I don't want to do this. I don't want to take that route. If I'm going to pass away, I want to do it under my own terms. I want to do it with control. And then there are people who want to fight. And the people who want to fight have a choice. They're not forced to do it, they choose to do it. And that's what I want medicine to be like for you, so that you have that passion, you have that longevity because you're free and you get to choose. You're like, hey, I want to go to work. I want to help these people. I want to be there for my patients. You choose it. And when you choose it, you have longevity and you have freedom and you have passion behind it, and it will continue to drive you forward. So I really hope you guys have a passion for something and it continues to drive you and it continues to motivate you. And if you've lost your passion, if you feel like medicine's not for you, or you feel burnt out or you're working all the time, then take some time to invest in yourself. Take some time to figure out what your passion is again. Maybe it's your family, maybe it's yourself, maybe it's something that you really truly love and you can figure out how to do both. And having control of your finances is something that's going to give you that ability to feel like you can do whatever you want to do in life. Ah, man. So I know we rambled on. I think we're close to our 20-minute mark anyway. So we're going to call it a day for now. I'm always wishing you guys the best, and the same thing. If you guys do need help, if you need coaching, if you need anything to help you get to the next level, you can always go to themdinvestor.com. That's the mdinvestor.com. You guys can go there for free classes. You can go there for other classes. You can go there for one-on-one coaching. Whatever it is that you feel like that's going to help you get to the next level. Because some people want to do things alone. That's perfectly fine. Go to YouTube, Google it. I don't care how you get the information. I don't care what you do to get to the next level. I just want you to be successful in your plight. And that's my mission here, is to help as many healthcare providers as humanly possible learn how to invest. Not just money, but invest in yourself, invest in your passion, invest in your future, invest in your family, because the biggest return on your investment is being able to get your time back. So I'm always going to wish you guys the same thing. I wish you health, wealth, and happiness. And I really want you guys to have the best and most positive energy and the most positive vibes. You guys have a good one, and I will see you guys in the next podcast.